But when we lose that, when there's something happening to that, I think we will still come back to what we call it as a crisis. And that crisis is because it attacks our identity, it attacks our hearts. Because this is what we trying to define our life in this, trying to define our identity from all of these things. And I think that with that, when we somehow lose part of it, in a sense, it is empty, and we need to fill it with some other things, right? And that's how we then we are trying to respond. So my next questions will be, last time in the past, how do we react to the crisis that happens in our life? How is our react or response at that time? Sorry? Wait. Wow. Eat. Eat. Oh. Complain. Maybe got something.
Share with others.
Share, okay. Share or talk with others.
Cry with yourself.
Try to sleep. If I can't cry, I cannot sleep.
Like reflection.
What?
Reflect.
Reflect. How do you reflect?
Like reflect is actually like a research that you try to find what is the root cause and like really see actually why it happened, why you think that it's a crisis.
Okay.
Maybe that's why you're not trying to solve, but more to understand why you think it's a crisis.
Understand.
Go back to the basic.
Go back to basic. What do you mean by basic?
Like re-examine like what are you living your life on? All the what are your foundation? What are your foundation?
Okay. Do you mind to share what do you think for you is the basic or the foundation?
Depends on the crisis. So for example, if it's an identity, right, then you have to ask yourself how am I made? How did God make me? For the basic, like
How did God
in like what family put you in, like your gender, like and then also maybe it can be like everything. It's just like depend on the crisis.
Depends on the crisis.
But it's like to go back to basic, because once like we make things so complicated, of course you are confused. So you have to simplify. Simplify. Yeah, simplify that. Simplify.
Tata, you want to say something? We have not been saying anything.
I'm good listener. Brush it off.
Brush it off. Brush it off. Do you want to brush it off? I think, looking at this response that we have so far, wow, that's good food, man. Eat more.
I'm not in the crack.
You are confused. Confused sometimes is a small crisis that is happening.
Well, but if you think about it, it's crisis because I can't, it's difficult.
I think, if we see this response so far, we can see that sometimes we are sorry, I need to search things. There is a part of us, in a sense, trying to find distraction, or which I think eat more, sleep, brush it off.
Pray,
Pray is not a distraction, I think.
just
Depending on how you pray. It can be a distraction, or it might not be a distraction. And there are some parts of us where we are trying to confront our feelings and the crisis itself. It's like trying to sleep. I mean, we are like trying to see what else. Reflect, confront. Yeah, reflect can be said confronting as well.
Talk.
Share or talk with others can be both, depending on what you talk. If you share, then yes. Complain.
What's the first one?
Sorry? Wait. Wait. Depend on how you wait also lah. Okay. Sorry.
Complain also depends how you complain.
Yeah. But in a sense, it's more plus. And I think sometimes what is hard for us, I mean, when we are in crisis, is that we might, our tendency might be too extreme. Sometimes it's either we really distract ourselves a lot, we eat more, sleep more, go more, and all these things, and we do not really confront it. Like procrastination is, in a sense, in a distraction as well. I don't confront my fear of trying to do my work, so it's going to distraction. But some of other times we might go towards to confront it, in a sense, too hard. We reflect on ourselves. We really, we are overwhelmed by our feelings, that we try to sleep, that we complain, and all these things. So it's either sometimes the problem is that we might go too much either to distract on ourselves or to confront it, and we become harsh to ourselves. We become harsh to ourselves to the point that we beat ourselves up, and both actually does not helps us to react. To respond to our crisis. So I would like to just give this between reacting and responding. When we react, we do it in a sense automatically, because we felt that because of the wounds in our hearts, because of that emptiness in our hearts, we want to feel it right away, and that's why eventually we try to react, and we do all of the things that to make sure that we don't feel that emptiness. But what in a Christian way, what we want to do is that if we want to try to respond, I think we have watched the movie Saint Ignatius, Saint Inigo de Loyola, right? And he mentioned something about indifference. And Saint Ignatius himself, he puts this as the first principle and foundation. He said that for men, our aim in this world is to praise, to revere, and to serve God. So whatever conditions we are in, is basically, eventually, we need to use it to achieve that purpose. And this is what I will call, when we say we are responding to our crisis. We are responding to praise God, to serve God, and to revere. So we are not acting outside what we are created to be. But how do we actually can go towards this responding rather than reacting. I think that is one of the things that we need to think. How are we going to? I mean, how should we do it? Because if not, if we eventually only do reacting, then it does not help in our conditions. We become a worse person that is trying to. Our wounds eventually define us. Our identity, it becomes. It is being formed by all of the things that actually hurt us, and that makes us far from what God has intended us to be. So what I would like to propose is this, what I mentioned, which is the first exercise that we are doing, which is the listening. Because when we are listening, we are in a sense confronting, we are trying to go from reacting to our responding. We are trying to come from being negative, being reacting towards from our wounds to the neutral state, so that we have the love, we have the power, so that we can eventually respond to God.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, this thought just came to that. Reacting is like always responding to the situation. It's like it's very external, but responding is like internal. It's like because you react, it's like because you need external stimulus, so that's what you react, because sometimes like something changes in the external environment, so you react. But responding is more like from within.
From within, yes. It is from, when we are responding, it is from our center that we are trying to respond and to do things. Okay. So I think, that's why I introduced the first exercise about the feelings, so that we are able to see. Because a lot of times, as we might forget of certain things that happen to us, and it eventually is building up in us. That's why a lot of times we find that it is easier for us to be angry with maybe our superior, or sometimes our parents, or sometimes our spouse, our partners, when we don't have the chance to be able to explain ourselves to the other party. Especially, for our superior, it's very hard for us to explain to the boss, right? Boss is boss. So if the boss do something wrong, we just hold it up. We just take it. But that is eventually not. It is not something that. It becomes building up, and when it's building up, and we don't notice it, it affects our life very much, and our lives, it becomes very. It creates crisis in our lives. We started to react not according to our center, which is our identity as the child of God, but we react according to what the wounds define us. So I think, have you ever watched the movie Shutter?
Shutter? Yes.
Yes.
It's a horror movie.
Yes.
Yes.
The Thailand movie. You don't know. For those who do not know, so it's a horror movie. I think. So in the past, there is this couple, and in a sense, the men not do something. It's like I forgot. I think it's. I'll just give a brief description. So actually, the man is like I forgot what he do to the girls, but eventually caused the girls to die. But the man does not. I do not know whether you know. So he just keep on living, and he's like, after that, the man leaves the girl, and the girl eventually commits suicide or some commits suicide and die. So eventually the man meet other girls and all these things, but eventually then the ghost of the girl started to haunt the man again, and haunt the people around him, and a lot of funny things, weird things happen. And one of the times he's saying that, I feel my shoulder is like what do you call it? It's painful and all these things. So along the movie, then suddenly there's in one of the scene where suddenly a camera take pictures of the man, and when they see it's a Polaroid camera. So when he see the pictures, it's actually the woman is on the shoulders of the man all the while. So the man actually does not knows about the woman that is actually on his shoulder. And I think this is quite something that is relating to us in the sense that if we have never noticed of our negative feelings, if we never notice of the wounds or the especially the negative feelings that we have, it might actually weigh us down. It might actually make us, when we do things, it disrupt what we are called to do. And that's why it's very important that we actually listen to our feelings, and especially the negative one, because we need to know why do we feel. And feelings are actually, it's like a little children, okay? Like little children, if you ignore the little children, if they keep on like screaming and trying to get your attention, then it started to disrupt you. It started to disrupt your activities. But once you listen to the children, they started to be calm, and eventually you can continue to do the activities that you want to do. It is the same thing as our feelings. If we keep on ignoring the feelings, even though it is sometimes it is not a dominant feelings that we feel, it can build us in our lives. It is just affecting us, make us feel even heavier, and eventually we are not able to function. And that's why also we learn from the little children. When we see little children, they are very easy to feel joyful. Correct? They might fall down and cry for like 2 seconds or 3 seconds. No, sometimes 1 minute or several minutes. Then once they finish crying because they see chocolate or whatever, then after that they feel happy again. But it's very easy for little children to feel happy. And why is that so? Because they are very sensitive towards their feelings. When they feel all of the negatives one, they cry. They have ways to relieve the negative feelings. But as we grow, we learn to, in a sense, to control our actions. But when we learn to control our actions, we actually forgot to learn to listen to our feelings. And that's why, if today my teaching sessions, you forgot all of the things that have been discussed and have been said, I just want you to learn to have that resolution to stop once in a while to reflect on your feelings. Yes?
It's not more like not control, you just need to own a mask. Because just like society tells certain like ways is not acceptable, like crying too much is like if a guy is don't cry all the time, the thing like it's like too feminine or something. So maybe it's just you put on a mask, just to blend in to sometimes.
Correct. So that we feel, that's why because we want to blend in, we eventually forgot to listen to our feelings. And I think sometimes, some of other things that might obstruct us from listening is that sometimes we feel that if I feel angry, I'm actually do sin. If I'm angry with my brothers and sisters, I'm actually doing sin. But it's not the case. You will do sin only when you act from your anger, or when you complain or gossip. Then this one also can be something that we eventually sin when we complain about other people. But if we only listen to it and we feel the anger, we can feel the anger. We can feel the anger because something has been done to you and you are trying to protect yourself, and that's when you feel the anger coming out. And it's okay to feel that anger. But at the end of listening to your feelings, we need to be able to say, I am not my emotion. I am not what I feel only. That I have a will to control it. But I want to listen to my feeling. Because I do not want this feeling to eventually become a source of the things that I do. When we listen to feelings, we, in a sense, and when we listen to our feelings and eventually we detach ourselves, by saying that no, I will not do according to what my emotion tells me because I am not my emotion. That gives us the control, and that gives us the freedom to respond instead of from reacting from our anger. So I hope that, we can make this habit of listening to ourselves. Yes, it is, and I will suggest to have, in a sense, of 50% of here and 50% of confronting when we first encounter our crisis. If we confront ourselves too much, if we become hard to ourselves, we are too hard on ourselves. Eventually, we don't have the energy to be able to respond. But if we distract ourselves too much, eventually we started to do things out of our emotion without knowing that it is actually triggered by that negative emotion. So we need to be able to make a good balance. Sometimes distract ourselves. We can eat a little bit good food. We can sleep more, which is actually sleep more quite healthy as well. But when we have that time after we do these things, then we come back to confronting ourselves, confront that feelings again. So it's a balance of bit and both. For me personally, I was in this state when I face crisis. Normally, I will be harsh towards myself. I will be the one to beat myself, like, why have I not do like this? Why I have not done like that? It gives me the pressure to be a better person. To improve. But at the same time, because of too much pressure, I cannot even start to do anything. And that's eventually weigh me down. That eventually makes me feel very negative about a lot of things. But I realized as I read books from I think that is from Henry Nouwen, it actually led me to listen to myself kindly with compassion, and at the same time it also asked me to sometimes distract myself to search to find, in a sense, fun, or sometimes we pray as well. It can be as a distraction, but that gives us that energy to feel that love, so that eventually I have the energy to confront my feelings, and I have the energy to respond from my center. So I'd like to just give you another question.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes.
Do you mind your teaching being a distracted a bit?
Sure.
So you mentioned also about responding is not only listening but also praising something and revealing God as what we are created to be. So can you explain, or do you have an example how this may work to overcome or to help us in addressing our feelings?
Addressing our feeling.
Or our crisis.
So responding to address our feeling. Is it? That's what you are asking?
Because one of the response that you mentioned to us, suggest what is to listen, but also to say that I'm not my emotions.
Actually, when I say listen, actually might not be part of the responding. Listen is Okay, well, where can I think I'll just put here. I'm in negative state. For me to be able to respond, I need to be, in a sense, a bit neutral or positive state. Neutral. This is for me to respond. And I can continue to react and might make me even negative. But for me, listening is to make that movement towards the neutral. This is by half listen and half distract. So that when I comes to my neutral, then I can respond in my daily lives according to my center. I think I just give you an examples from the saints. There is this Saint Louis Marie de Montfort. So one day he has this mission to preach about the cross. So he made this Golgotha. It is like a statue of Golgotha and all these things where Jesus was crucified on one of the mountains. And he already completed, and it's just the next day that he needs the bishop to bless the thing. However, during that day, some of the enemies that does not like how he preach and does not like the things that he do as a priest, eventually they make negative rumors, bad rumors of Saint Louis Marie de Montfort and to the bishop. And eventually that day when the bishop supposed to bless the Golgotha, eventually he asked for the Golgotha to be scrapped away, to be destroyed, because they do not want it. They do not want Saint Louis Marie de Montfort to do his mission. So what Saint Louis Marie de Montfort at first, when he heard about this, he cried. He confronted his feeling and he cried. But after some time, after he releasing all of the emotions, then he in a sense, when he cried, he confronted his feeling, he's listening, and he go back to the neutral, and that's when he respond according to his center, and he said that it's okay, the Golgotha, even though it is not made in the mountain, but the Golgotha has been made in the people's heart. And that's why we need to be obedient to destroy all of the things, all of the works that they done, but we need to keep the Golgotha in our hearts. And that is his response according to the center, according to what God's will, in obedience with the bishop. So listening is, in a sense, for us to move.
So listening is
first step to take.
It is the step to the response.
So listening is a proper way to confront our feelings. Confront our feelings.
Yes. In a sense.
That means the response is what we are called to do towards that action that caused us that feeling.
Sorry again?
The response is the action that we are called to do in response to the action that makes us feel that way.
In response to the crisis, like, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, when I give you all of the feelings, in that sheet, I find that is helpful, because sometimes, we can say that, we are angry. But then, I find that when it is more in details, you are able to find the correct, you feel more understood when you get the more details feeling. And it actually also helps you to know the intensity of the emotion. I can feel slightly angry, or I can feel really furious or rage and all these things. So I find that when we are reflecting on these feelings, words, it's actually help us to really identify what are the feelings that really we feel. And from there, when we listen to the feelings, we feel understood. And that's when we started to come back to neutral. And that's why I think, some people, I actually surprised that no one put. Sometimes our reacting is by watching K-drama, or watching sad movie. That is the brush it off. Or watching sad movie, or sometimes even listen to sad song. And actually that work, in a sense, sometimes it works. It works if you, after that, then you further explore your feelings. Because why? You started to feel, you feel that the song describes what you feel, or the movie describes some of the things that you might encounter. I remember after my breakups last time that I cried during watching Toy Story 3 in the plane. When I was flying to Rome, I watched Toy Story 3 and I cried. Why? And after that, I explored towards my feeling. Why do I actually cry? Because that time I felt that when when the toy are being given away, even though I mean it's in a positive way lah, right? But I felt that it is the same thing as me, that I was rejected. There is that feeling of rejections that comes from giving away that. And that's when I asked them, I was like, yeah, I have this feeling. And I try to listen to my feeling. And that actually helps to eventually help us to come back to neutral. Of course, listening is not like a one-time things that, sometimes some saints, they are like, one time they just listen and after that they can come back to neutral. But most of the time for us, especially when it is a major crisis that really make us worried, it takes time, it takes months, sometimes it takes years to listen to our feeling again and again, to check, how am I today? What do I feel? Do I still feel that anger? Do I still feel sad because certain things does not happen according to what I expect? So still have time? 5 minutes. 5 minutes for this exercise. I'd like you to just look back to your crisis in the past. We have gone through like how do we respond? But then let's look back on our crisis in the past. And as we look back currently, how has that crisis means to you? How has that crisis changed you? Is it for a better? Is it for worse?
Can I
Yes.
share something? Actually, I'm quite aligned with what you shared.
Sure.
That until that I'm not my emotions said okay, but about that the responding part for praise, serve, and defer seems like it makes no sense to the crisis that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is like actually the same question that makes meetings and about sharing these things, because
Okay.
for me responding is you have to really understand how to respond, and you have to really know that you are not your emotion. But how the crisis shape you is totally a different thing, because praise, serve, and refer seems like a thing that makes you in the same circumstances, and you forgot that actually human have a free will. So actually that's why I don't really get the alignment in here, because to solve a crisis it depends on the free will of that human as well. So it's not about that response of the human towards something.
It's not the response for something.
So for example, in my crisis, it's about whether I am in the right career path or not. If I'm just responding for praise, serve, and refer, actually I can stay still in the same company, still forgive my supervisor and do what I can do for my department, keep supporting and etc. and be happy in that company. But actually there is a free will where actually I can opt out to resign and take start a new